In July of 2016, my family and I, we lost our baby boy, Lucas. I was 19 and a half weeks pregnant. Pretty late in the game. And we still don't know the reason why. It was the most devastating experience of our lives together. But after that happened, we decided not to focus on why was that happening to us specifically. Because terrible things happen to good people all the time, and we are not special. So instead, we shifted our focus to gratitude and recovery. After all, we had each other, we had our family support, and we were healthy, so we could try again. And that's what we did. The next 4 months, I exercised, I ate well, took some supplements, and got my body ready for another try. Sure enough, just as expected, before the end of the year, we found out that we were expecting again. We couldn't believe it. We thought 2017 was going to be our year. But then, before we even had time to tell our family and friends, that baby too was gone. So after everything that happened, we decided to put the idea of having a baby in the back burner for a while. And that's when the first little chance encounter happened. One day, I was just scrolling through my Facebook page. Yes, I love Facebook. And I saw a post from a former colleague of mine that I had not even been in touch with for at least 15 years. She had posted something about fostering an infant. I thought it was cool, but I didn't think much of it and continued on with my day. Eventually, we connected, and she became a tremendous source of inspiration and information. But that day, I didn't think much of it. Ironically, though, just a couple of days later, enough for it to still be fresh in my mind, I saw another post, yes, again on Facebook. But this time, it was from somebody that I'm not even friends with on Facebook. But due to its mysterious algorithm, it showed up on my feed. There it was. This guy, he was volunteering at a foster group home for the day. So I became curious. And I decided to ask Mr. Google what fostering was all about. My husband and I had certainly talked about adopting at that point, but neither one of us, just like many of you in this room, really knew what fostering entails. So that's what I want to do today. I want to debunk some myths and misconceptions that him and I had about fostering that we found out through our experience not to be true. It's based solely on our experience, but it's been so positive that we think it's worth sharing. And I will start with the most common one, because people confuse fostering and adopting all the time, which is only families looking to adopt will consider fostering. This could not be further from the truth. You see, fostering is not just for those people that are having a hard time growing their families like we were, whether it is through infertility or miscarriages. Because the goal of fostering is actually family reunification, not adoption. Although some children do become eligible for adoption, one just never knows if and when that's going to happen. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest challenges for licensing agencies is that asking a family, like you and I, to take a child into their home without knowing the exact outcome of that child's story for an undetermined amount of time really is a hard sell. We started the training, and after we were further along in the training, a third little chance encounter happened. And no, for Christ's sake, this time was not through Facebook, it was face-to-face. We were flying to Baltimore for spring break to visit our stepson. And as we were on board in the plane, I spotted a former boss of mine that, again, I had not seen in like 10 years. He was very dear to me, so I asked my husband, can we wait and say hello? And out of the plane he came with his wife and these two little boys that looked nothing like them. So I knew something was up. Plus, I knew they were older. They were an older couple. They were empty nesters. They were actually there for one of their kids' wedding. So I asked, of course, I'm a curious person, who are these two little guys? And he replied without hesitation. He said, these are our boys. So I abruptly asked him if they could come over for dinner right there and there in the airport and share with them that we were in the process of getting a license. So they came over and told us that they had been fostering these two little guys for a little over 3 years. And they had fostered many children before them too. And they were then in the process of adopting. And so we learned, not just through our training, but also through our friends' experiences, that even though fostering is not the easiest road to adoption, it certainly is a very noble road to adoption, because if you focus on your journey and not the destination, you can help many children along the way. And one day a child will come into your home that will need a permanent placement, and that's your chance to adopt. But you have to keep your mind in the game, because the goal of fostering is family reunification. Our first child, we only had her for 2 days, and then she was gone. So yes, you need to be comfortable with uncertainty and ready to let go at a moment's notice. But if you're feeling a little discouraged by now, telling yourself, I cannot deal with this level of uncertainty, let me just share with you all how our 14-year-old daughter at the time, now she's 15, but she was only 14, and we had to engage her in this process because she was going to be part of it, had to say about this issue. I said to her, Gabby, I'm not sure about this fostering thing. We're going to bring a child in, fall in love, and then he or she will leave. She replied with a level of maturity that extended well beyond her years. We could not believe it. She said, Mom, if that happens, that's a good thing. That means the parents got their act together. They're going back to their family where they belong. It's a happy ending for all. And with that statement, we decided to move forward. You see, we realized that fostering wasn't about us. It wasn't about judging the biological parents and thinking that we can do better. It wasn't about feeling a void left by miscarriages and hoping to get to keep a child. Fostering is about being in a unique position to help children at a time in their lives where their world has turned upside down. Can you imagine being abruptly removed from your homes and having to go live with complete strangers? We saw the need to become the most loving and caring strangers to these children. But of course, just like you, we had many questions. Can anybody do this? Are we eligible? It sounds like a pretty serious deal. Which brings me to the second myth that I want to talk to you about today. A lot of people only do it for the money. I cringe when I hear people say that. And unfortunately, to this day, I still hear it quite a lot. The process of getting that license involves commitment of all sorts and stability. In our case, we took an 8-week course. It was face-to-face meetings, some online trainings, background checks, release of medical records, letters of references from families and friends, financial statements, and even 3 home visits to ensure that our home was safe. A social worker from our licensing agency even came to our home to interview our daughter, and she questioned our motives and make sure that she was on board. So no, we really don't think people do it for the money. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest perks of entering this community is that you will get to meet other amazing families that are doing it for the exact same reasons you are, to help. So we were committed. We finished the course. We were learning about all the challenges that we were about to face. There are challenges about potentially having to co-parent with the biological parents, about trauma, about discipline, abuse, about the difference between love and attachment. That was a big one. But just as importantly as we were learning about all these challenges, we are all learning about the resources available to us that if I were to list them all today, we wouldn't have enough time. It truly takes a village to foster a child. And it starts with your personal friends. They will come through with donations for clothes, toys, or anything else that you need, even swim lessons. Which brings me to the third point that I want to talk to you about today. Fostering is too much of a burden. If you're thinking that you're interested in doing it, but you're scared that it might be too much to take on, just think about it this way. When you foster, you have the backup of a whole team of professionals. They are there to guide you every step of the way. And you can choose your level of involvement. You don't have to start all in. You can become a backup foster parent, for example, for those that are already doing it and have a need to travel. That would take the uncertainty factor out of the equation. When you get the phone call, they would tell you, can you foster this child, 9 years old, for 3 days while this family travels? Or if you have a flexible work schedule, you can become a driver and drive these kids to appointments, doctor's appointments, visitations. We need that. Or just like my mysterious Facebook friend that I don't even know, you can volunteer at a foster group home for the day, cooking, entertaining. But simply put, don't be scared of what you don't know. I hear it all the time. I could not do it. It's an emotional roller coaster. That training really drills it into your brain that the goal is unification and you're there to serve. So the good that you're doing is much, much greater than your attachment. Financially speaking, also not an issue. You're not going to become rich, just like we talked about, but you will get some help. The big expenses like daycare, aftercare, or medical expenses are covered, and the day-to-day additional expenses for food, clothes, you'll get a small stipend that should be enough. And these are all the details that you would learn in your training. And speaking of training, our family were in the final stages of our training, which were the home visits, right? So we had to put together the third room in our tiny little condo for our foster child because the social worker was coming the next day. We had chosen an age group of 0 to 5, so we needed to have a bed and a crib, which you can choose the age group that best fits your family dynamics, by the way. And my husband is working hard, putting together the crib, and I simply wasn't having it. I was exhausted and a little bit nauseous. So he looked at me and he said, "Could you be pregnant?" We had been to happy hour the day before. And I thought it was an absurd question because we were actually avoiding it. We were set on fostering and potentially adopting. But just to be safe, it was Saturday night. Happy hour could happen again. I took a home pregnancy test. And you better believe it. There we were. The realization that we could be welcoming not one, but 2 children into that tiny condo, and that our family was going from 3 to 5 in less than a year, was truly overwhelming. Of course, I had second thoughts. But my husband and daughter, they were my true north, and they said, you know what? We've come this far. We're going to continue doing this. Take one day at a time. Which brings me to the final myth for today. You need a big house to foster. A lot of people think that they don't have enough space in their homes for one more, as if having their own bedroom is a requirement for children. I shared a bedroom with my 2 siblings at some point when I was growing up, didn't you? See, a lot of these kids, they have been through a lot. Some of them have been through an environment of neglect and abuse, or even both. All they really need is a bed in your home and a safe and loving environment. So if you have a stable family and you have that nagging feeling in your heart that you should be doing something to help your community, fostering might just be the thing for you. After learning about the system, it was an eye-opening experience to realize that all the little things that we do, they're just part of our daily routines, like packing our daughter's lunch, for example. We're that weird Latin family that puts hot food in her lunchbox, and she's a high schooler, like rice and beans. Or she loves it. Or making popcorn to watch a movie, or driving her to volleyball games, cheering her on. Many children don't have any of that. All the little positive things that you do, they're simply your routine, are a foreign concept to so many children right here in our backyards. It is estimated that there are 14,000 children in the foster care system in the state of Florida alone, and not nearly enough homes, to the point where most people, when they're issued that license, a lot of them, they get the phone call for a placement that very same day. The need is that great. So today I challenge you, at least look into it. Even if you're an empty nester, consider fostering teenagers or siblings. They're the hardest ones to place. And the opportunity to touch their lives and change the course of their lives is in each and every one of our hands. When you shift your focus from your needs to the needs of others, you will find a tremendous amount of gratitude in your heart, compassion, and hope that your actions, no matter how little they seem to be in the big picture, can actually change lives. It's the greatest antidepressant there is. Believe me, my family and I, we've been through a lot, and we came out stronger on the other side because of this outwardly mentality. This little boy that we've been fostering for the last couple of months has changed our souls. He has brought so much laughter into our home. Are we helping him, or is he helping us? It's both. Ever since he came to live with us, I haven't even had time to stress about losing this one. I haven't felt any anxiety after everything that we've gone through. I'm too worried thinking about what I'm going to put in his lunchbox tomorrow because he does not appreciate the rice and beans. So we have to get a little creative. No time to stress. It's great. And if you're sitting here thinking, that's great, Aline, but I'm too young to foster. I still live with my parents. Don't you worry. It doesn't have to be fostering. You can become a big brother or a big sister. Remember, all it takes is a Google search. But the realization that we can all do something from the very comfort of our homes starts today. Let's make it a movement and find a home for every child in the foster care system in our state. And who knows, maybe even our country.